Well, welcome back to This Band Could Be Your Life, which I finally started saying it right as well, which is good. So we joked right at the start of this whole thing off camera about how long is it going to be before we talk about Radiohead? Well, as it turns out, not very long. It's taken us to get to
4 whole episodes.
4 whole episodes. We thought, well, we'll get this one out of our system because it's going to be hanging over us like the spectres on the album cover of King of Limbs if we don't get around to it. So this week we're going to talk about the band Radiohead, so a British rock band who kind of came to prominence in the mid to late 90s and then reinvented themselves several times, inspired multiple generations of artists, continue to make amazing albums, really interesting individual projects as well. Getting into Radiohead is almost like getting into like a piece of important piece of history. You keep on discovering new layers to the story, and there's always new music to explore with them.
Every generation has an artist. You have the 80s had the Smiths, maybe Pink Floyd for the 70s, the Beatles for the 60s. Those huge totemic artists who everyone gets into, and Radiohead is that for the 90s. They epitomise the generation as much as any artist who came from then would. Because they started off in the most maligned and awful genre imaginable, Britpop, and then managed to make something actually good.
Yeah, I mean, when people always, there's that classic question when it comes to 90s British bands, who do you prefer, Oasis or Blur? I'll say Radiohead.
Ooh.
Just be contrarian, because obviously those bands were emblematic of that period, but for me they were by far the least interesting British, well, not by far, because Blur do make interesting music.
Blur have got a couple of good albums, which puts them above Oasis.
Blur have got a couple of good albums. Oasis have several great songs, in my opinion. But anyway, that's beside the point. So they kind of came to prominence during Britpop, which compared to the music that they were doing, way more depressing, way more insular, and way more State of Nation addresses than the lab rock of Oasis or kind of the privileged art pop rock which Blur were doing. But unfortunately we have to start on a bit of a bum note, which is their infamous debut album, Pablo Honey, which came out in '93.
Ba-boom.
Oh.
Ba-boom. So we'll get out of the way. So Pablo Honey contains the single Creep, which has haunted them and is like a albatross around the neck of the band ever since. They hate the song. Yeah, because for a lot of people, if you're not listening to Radiohead albums, that's the song. Oh, I love Creep. And it's but there's always other great songs and great albums, and I personally really like Creep. I've actually come around to quite liking it. I don't think it's a good song by any stretch. I would never sit down and listen to it. It's fine if it just comes on in a pub or something.
I like it a lot. I mean, I think it's a good song. No, it's not a good song. I like it.
It's quite charming how shit it is compared to the later stuff.
Yeah. It's as a piece of history, it's important. As you say, I think comparing it to the albatross that hung around the Mariner's neck is probably a really good comparison. Because it's almost become as big of a joke as
Laughing Gnome or something.
Like the Laughing Gnome, or someone at a concert saying "Play Freebird," "Play Creep."
Because the lyrics are the most banal, I'm a creep.
Oh yeah, it's worth it. Just it's the way it's musically it's done that makes it. The lyrics are banal. There's nothing to it. It's just that kind of weird for being weird's sake, which was quite popular in the early 90s. Kind of Smashing Pumpkins and stuff.
I like Smashing Pumpkins.
I like them, but I don't like the image.
Oh right,
you know what I mean? Where it's kind of quirk for quirk's sake. The music I think is good, but I think the image is kind of the whole weird for weird's sake.
Definitely, yeah. Billy Corgan was Billy Corgan is a deeply strange man though. Have you seen his cat calendars?
Yeah. He takes part
wrestling companies.
He was featured on Cat Monthly recently. We might have to talk about them someday because they could be quite interesting. But whatever. Yeah, but the music is what makes it. It goes dun dun. But I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo.
It's an anthem.
It's an anthem. Like, I can't help but like it, and the rest of the album is not great.
Yeah, I listened to this actually twice for this. Once today, once the other day, and yeah, it does not hold up at all. Every song has terrible lyrics like Creep, where they're just sort of basement garbage, basically, about like, you know, oh, it's so awful being thwarted in love and stuff. Like, most of them are just sort of sappy love songs, to be honest. There's none of the sort of later sort of ennui that would set in sort of around Kid A or something. But it's like a bad version of the Benz. The Benz does this a little bit, where it's got a bit naff lyrics, but it's worse than that because the music's really unimaginative as well.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's worth it for Tom York's terrible singing on this, where he's trying to imitate like Freddie Mercury and David Bowie a lot.
Yeah.
There's a hilarious bit on Anyone Can Play Guitar where he goes like, grow your hair and be like Jim Morrison, and he sings it like that. It's just terrible, yeah.
Oh, Tom.
But the whole album has this sort of faint air of just being. It feels like it could be any band from the early 90s doing like. Because obviously, early 90s in Britain had a bunch of like Smiths rip-off bands. You know, like The Wedding Present. There's like loads of them. It just feels like it could be. It feels more like that than Britpop, to be honest.
Okay.
But yeah, not worth revisiting. Not worth listening to.
They're definitely not.
Bad album. Straight up bad and all. Not like a lot of bands who do like early albums. It's like, oh, it's very original. You know, it's got some stuff on it that could be worth salvaging. Yeah. Not the case with Pablo Honey. Moving swiftly on. What comes next?
So after that, we get to The Bends, which was released a couple of years later in '95. Now, the Bends is an album that I used to really like, and I've just come to just liking it.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'd go a bit better than it's okay. I think there's loads of great moments on it. Loads of great songs
on it.
Yeah.
Apparently deeply inspired by seeing Jeff Buckley live.
York. Right, yeah.
He changed his vocal style to be more. He was hitting the falsetto more and more emotive, and
which definitely what makes a lot of those songs. You know, like High and Dry, Fake Plastic Trees.
That's a great song, Fake Plastic Trees.
Yeah,
Street Spirit.
Street Spirit's amazing. Great. Yeah, there's Just Is Good as well. That's like probably like the last really like anthemic song they did, because a lot of the others, while they're popular songs, they're not what you call like an anthem. I say Just is like the last kind of like anthem. It's like, you do it to yourself, just you. Like, yeah, it's good. I like Planet Telex as well. It's a really mature album compared to where they came from. And it's almost like the perfection of that sound they were trying to do on Pablo Honey, only with much better instrumentation, better lyrics. And yeah, it's kind of like where you start to see the individual members of the band coming out of that a little bit more. Obviously Tom York with his spine-tingling falsetto, Johnny Greenwood, and I mean this is kind of before the band started to experiment with like loads of different instruments. So you've kind of just got basically three guitars. So you've got Johnny Greenwood, Phil Selway on the drums.
Colin Greenwood, his brother.
Colin Greenwood, yeah. I remember there's another one as well, and I always forget his name. He honestly, when I saw them live, he was the most incredible one.
Who?
The other one who I can't think the name of. He was doing all the most like amazing stuff on the guitar and stuff. But anyway, so you really start to see their individual musicianship come out that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a good sign. You can tell the compositionally they are like light years ahead of what we were doing on Pablo Honey. Yeah. The step up is genuinely amazing. Listening back to back the two albums, kind of working to the point where like it almost renders Pablo Honey kind of a bit pointless, a bit null void, because this to me feels like Radiohead's true coming.
Yeah.
Where they've got the lyrics and they've got the musicianship, they've got the compositional genius. And yeah, I said like so Tom York's lyrics are a lot more affecting on this album. You know, like he always talks about Street Spirit and how like, you know, people, he talked about like, you know, when we performed the song live, everyone's singing along, and Tom York finds it vaguely amusing that people are singing to such a traumatic song. When you actually read the lyrics, they are deeply, deeply sad, troubling lyrics, but you know, for a lot of Radiohead fans, it's almost like it's like a classic anthem now.
Yeah.
Scream as they fight for life. I can feel death, can see its beady eyes.
Yeah.
Which is really peculiar. But for me, the highlight of the album is Fake Plastic Trees.
Yeah.
I love that song.
It's an amazing pop song, yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. It's so atmospheric.
She lives with a broken mind, a cracked
and you feel the emotions completely. I think that's the best thing that song does, where like where Tom kind of sings like, he wears you out, and like it almost feels like it's like, Tom, you're like in your mid-20s and you already feel like killing yourself already. Like, come on, mate, I'm sorry. So I mean, it's a great album. It's really good. It's unfortunate that it's only good compared to what comes after, which is the best compliment I can give it, to be honest. Because
it feels like they made the perfect pop album. So they want to move on to do something
like for any other band.
This would be the best.
This would be like one of the best albums, but unfortunately, in Radiohead's discography, they've just bettered themselves several times since, and the music which they've gone into has just made it, again, almost a bit null void, to be honest. Because then with the next album, so they do another couple of years, they do an EP as well.
Oh yeah, My Iron Lung.
My Iron Lung, which has got some good stuff on there. But then it gets on to the first essential album we're going to talk about, which is OK Computer. Which was released in 1997. Totemic, monolithic, the ziggurat of like 90s music, in my opinion. Even though I think Radiohead have done better albums, this is my favourite one. This is the one that made me fall in love with the band completely. Where it's just, I love it. I think it's just pretty much perfect start to finish, and if you've not listened to it, why are you here?
Exactly. Why would you not have listened to this by now?
Why would you not listen to this by now?
Unanimously seen by a lot of publications as being like the best album of the 90s. Sort of a perfect summation of the times, like this sort of fake optimism of sort of the Blair years, which this was in the first year of.
Yep.
Increasing phobia of technology.
Which, it feels oddly more prescient than ever, where, OK Computer talks about like, technology can tear people apart, and now it just feels even more prescient.
Fitter, happier, more productive. Is that about an Uber driver, or is it? But it's a great album in the way that it can talk about how technology can oppress people in ways that are probably unimaginable. Obviously, that's only a small part of the album. A lot of it does focus on, again, you've got like loneliness, sort of being distracted from society. But every single song on this. I'm not a massive fan of the song Electioneering, but every one's pretty good. Let Down is probably my favourite song.
Let Down is gorgeous, and I love. I'll talk about it a bit with Let Down, I guess, but like I love how kind of each song kind of goes for a very like different kind of like production style. Let Down is very, very inspired by a whole like Phil Spector like big sound. It's so gorgeous, like like the jingly of the opening, like, do 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 do, that opening guitar riff, and then the way the song kicks in with the drums. Like it's just gorgeous. Like, and the lyrics as well. Tom York wanted to sing about escaping and getting out, and one day I will grow wings, and it's just, oh god, I still get tingles listening to it. But the album's just punctuated by amazing moments such as that. So they took the recording, they recorded it in a big old mansion, which is really interesting considering they recorded it in such an ancient place, but it's an album which is very much of the present and of the future. So you just got too many great songs to count. Airbag, amazing opening. Paranoid Android, with its almost like prog rock-esque 3-part structure. Exit Music, which is just, it's spine-tinglingly good.
Subterranean Alien Blues, is it called?
Yeah, that's amazing. Fitter Happier, which is a perfect album break, which is probably the most haunting song of the whole album, where it's just this computerized voice going through kind of buzzwords and things that are meant to make you happy but end up pulling people down. It's just the Karma Police, classic single. And then pretty much every single song on here. I said Electioneering, like it's fine, but it's pretty on the nose. Singing about Tony Blair's rise to prominence as Prime Minister of the day. It's kind of where kind of more like politically charged lyrics that kind of permeate it. They've got such an ability to like sum up the human condition in simple terms, which you get. And it's more than just the lyrics, it's the music as well. This is really where I think you can see the compositional genius of people like Johnny Greenwood.
I think they're an interesting band because I wouldn't call Tom York like an amazing lyricist. But I think that, because everything sort of works well with the music, it doesn't really matter. Like, he's not like, a Leonard Cohen or a Bob Dylan or a Nick Cave or something. It's different. It's a different style. It's a different style
which complements the music, where maybe if you read it out loud, it wouldn't quite work. While, Leonard Cohen was a poet, that was his first job.
It's not narrative based like a lot of those people as well. It's more supposed to be like a mood or like not in the way of like Oasis, where it's like, just any old shit put together,
like anthemic pub rock songs.
It's supposed to give you sort of imagistical ideas of what it would be like for the sort of situations that the sort of the songs sort of detail, kind of thing.
Completely.
Especially as you got to Kid A, it goes further into that. But even at this point, like, it's amazing that this wasn't just like one of the most acclaimed albums of the 90s. It's also one of the biggest. They were absolutely huge at this point. And this album, it's incredibly like, I think this is sort of the final like of like the NME kind of, like really pushing like a big serious band as like.
You need to listen to this album. Band.
Obviously, music now, it's so like, regimented into different sort of genres and segments. Like, people can have individual. Two people could never listen to the same music now. But this is like a big event kind of album.
Which pulled multiple people together and to listen to this one album. But the fact that it's an album of the day that feels more relevant now, I think just says so much to the power of the album. I re-listened to it probably about a month ago. And it's lost none of its power. I must have heard this album more than pretty much any other album, I probably listened to it about 20, 30 times easily. And even after like a little break from it, oftentimes when I get into music, I get that thing of like, familiarity breeds contempt. Definitely don't have that with Radiohead, and especially not with OK Computer, where, considering the amount of times I have listened to it, I just keep finding new layers, or I'm excited by different things. Like this time I was blown away by Crawling Up the Walls.
That's an amazing song.
It's just amazing. It's such a spacious song. Again, emphasizing a different kind of production. Tom York's creepy vocals, and the lyrics aren't necessarily the best lyrics, but they fit the song perfectly. Talking about paranoia and fear and how it can seep into your home, and it's almost like you almost imagine like a black ghost, like kind of going up the walls and stuff, and he paints such an amazing picture, and I love Phil Selway's drumming on it as well, kind of like more like steel drums, and it's a lot slower and lumbering, and you almost feel like this thing kind of like walking around a room and stalking the narrator. It's just brilliant. I love it. The final song as well is brilliant as well. Hey man, slow down. It's like a plea for human progress in a way. We keep heading towards something. We're making technological advances every single day, but I think ultimately the theme of the album is to take stock. To stop.
Okay, computer,
calm down. Yeah, exactly. Just take a breather, stop, look at the world around you. And I think even as technology increases, we get even more sucked into an increasingly digital world, I think that's why the message of OK Computer
will
never date, because that it's a plea. I don't think Radiohead quite realised how far that concept would go, but I think him and there's an interview with David Bowie around a similar time where he talks about the internet. He talks about how the internet's going to have far-reaching consequences which you can't even comprehend as a person of the 90s. We've not even tapped the potential yet. The interviewer is kind of like, "Oh, David, don't you think you're overacting a little bit?" And it's kind of like, shit, he was on the ball. He knew what he was talking about. So maybe I don't know how many people thought that maybe it's just Radiohead talking about now, but how far the internet's come, how far technology's come. The fact this album still feels relevant, and people probably feel more lonely than ever, sucked into a digital world with social media. It's an album that I think will never date. It's an absolute classic. It's an album which completely deserves its position, I think, as being one of the best albums of all time.
Yeah,
definitely one of my all-time favourite albums, and my personal favourite, even though we've extolled the virtues of this album, Radiohead have made better, which is the crazy thing. Like, any band could stop here and they'd be a classic band, frustratingly short band, but they'd be a classic, highly revered band. And most artists don't even have this kind of album in them, but Radiohead, as it turns out, have several, which is the incredible thing about them.
And speaking of better albums, Kid A, which is...
so Radiohead tour extensively during this period, and Tom York starts to get burnout, where a lot of his own personal demons really, really come out. And he doesn't want to make the kind of music that they had been making anymore. He wants to do something completely new, something completely different to even rock, outside the realms of like rock music, where OK Computer, while it is musically incredibly diverse and different to what we're doing on the bends, it still has a foot in the door of being kind of rock music. With the next album released in 2001, Kid A, they go in a completely different direction. In probably one of the bravest career moves I can think of, really. Having an album that's this confrontational and difficult musically, and it doesn't reveal itself straight away. It's an album which just, again, like OK Computer, continues to evolve, and it continues just to get better. So, I mean, personally, in my opinion, Kid A is the best album that Radiohead have made. Like, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And it just keeps one of them things that keeps getting better.
I would say third, but I'll keep going for what they are.
Okay. I suppose at the end of this, we could probably talk about what our favourites are, because I actually put a list together in my head recently.
Sounds good.
I think this is technically the best Radiohead album because of where it stands in their discography. The stuff that comes after couldn't have existed without Kid A. Without the basis that they built upon of completely breaking down the style, completely breaking down the music. I remember when I first listened to it, I was not into Radiohead that much. In fact, I had a bit of a stigma against them. Where people kept telling me like they're the best band ever, and
they have a lot of insufferable fans as well.
They have a lot of insufferable fans, and I was like, all right. Show me what you've got, greatest album of all time. And I listened to it, I wasn't really getting into it, but it was motion picture soundtrack. The last song, which is just like the most gorgeous song ever. Where, depending on how you interpret it, it's either a suicide or the narrator wants to carry on. I tend towards a more hopeful ending these days, but you could definitely read it as basically being the narrator is killing himself, cheap sex and sad films, sleeping pills and red wine, and I'll see you in the next life. Just the way Tom sings that and his vocals take off as if he's going up to the sky. So Kid A could either be an icy descent into suicide or a descent and an ascendance into carrying on.
Yeah,
which is an interpretation I've only kind of gotten kind of fairly recently on my kind of more recent listens of it.
Because what's interesting about the album is it seems to be about like a sort of traumatic event. Like there are a lot of people online who think it's like maybe about 9/11, even though it came out before.
Yeah.
But because like the album's sort of structure is it sort of goes from calm to sort of chaos back to sort of calm again.
Yeah.
Similar thematic material to OK Computer, dislocation, depression, sort of stuff like that. But like the structure of it, is much calmer and it feels more anesthetized than like OK Computer. The one that really did it for me when I was first getting into it is the fourth song, How to Disappear Completely.
Oh, I love that song.
That's
so
the best
much.
song on there, and it's the first one to appear to be an actual like proper song.
That day, that's not me.
Well, so like
it's the first one with guitars. It sounds like
it's like the acoustic guitars kicking, and that was based on a real experience that Tom York had, where he was performing on stage, and he just realised that he's got this crowd of adoring people, but he's just not feeling anything. And that experience that he sings, nothing, this isn't happening. Like the way the strings kick in and the acoustic guitars, it's honestly, it's enough to bring you to tears. It's so beautiful. Like it's amazingly done, and with the way it's placed in the album as well. So the amazing opening track, everything in its right place with it's kind of like the keyboard opening, and it's really moody. It's got a real drive to it. And then going into the title track, Kid A, which
that's amazing.
I love that song. Where like Tom's vocals are completely kind of like a vocoder or something, or makes it digital, so his voice becomes an instrument in and of itself. And
apparently, because the lyrics were so bleak, he couldn't bring himself to actually sing them.
I slipped on a little one ride.
And the electric drums as well, which is really important to the rest of Radiohead's career from a percussion perspective. Where I love the kind of I can't even describe it, but like it just feels so nice listening to it. The kind of the beat that Selway puts down.
It's very jazzy, like it feels sort of very light and kind of
very light, very stripped back, and the fact that you can it's almost like a clicker. But the fact that he's able to make these kind of really interesting percussion things pretty much digitally is kind of like it's amazing. And again, it gets into the internal kind of contradiction of the album where a lot of Radiohead's certainly OK Computer anyway made about technology and about how it can dehumanize people, but these are albums which are made by the amazing advances in music technology, which is really interesting. And the way the title track Kid A kind of kicks in with the electric drums and stuff and the sample drums, and it's a beautiful song.
Well, I think the fact that I think it is kind of overrated, like how difficult this album is. Like it still does have stuff like the national anthem, which is more anthemic rock music, and yet again, perfectly sequenced album, similar to OK Computer, where it just goes from your highs to lows so neatly as well and stuff.
And like the mid-album break as well, Tree Fingers.
Bit of like acoustic noise, really.
It's like
acoustic, ambient noise.
Ambient noise, and it's on some albums I'd accuse that of being filler, but turns out on this you need the breather after How to Disappear Completely. You need that little bit of like palate cleansing. to get into the second half of the album. But I do agree that the difficulty of the album is a little bit overrated. I think in a way, like the follow-up's a little bit more difficult to get into.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. So the second half of the album is definitely like a little bit more traditional. It's like there are recognisable songs and hooks like "Optimistic," "Idiotech,"
That's
which is
incredible.
God,
song.
I love that song. Ice Age coming, Ice Age. Oh God.
Ice Age coming. Let me hear both sides, let me hear both sides, let me hear both. Ice Age coming. Throw him in the fire, throw him in the fire, we're not scared, monger.
God.
About climate change.
All about climate change, and you're probably way before, way before it was the really pressing issue it is now. So yeah, I mean that second half of the album, while there are more recognisable song hooks, it does kind of continue that line of kind of more experimental music.
Well, I think what's so incredible about the album, just to sort of the thesis statement around why this one, like you were talking about OK Computer, why it's still so relevant now. It's so vague about what it's describing, but the emotions are so clear. Like it could be about the album's sort of theme seems to be like dealing with loss or grief or pain or something by disassociation.
Yeah.
Like that's why the music's so much more calmer than it was before. And there's only occasional outbursts of like anger and stuff. It doesn't feel like an angry album like OK Computer, but because it's so vague but the emotions are so clear, you could sort of account it. You could have it relate to anything kind of thing. But yeah, like every single song on this is a classic.
It's just great, yeah.
And yeah, bold as hell for them to. Well, I'm reading that this again is one of those humorous ironies. Like the album was leaked before it came out, and people were actually singing every song when they were doing it live before the album came out. So there was a familiar. I think because people had listened to it, they got familiar with it and were able to deal with how harsh it was before it came out, making it bigger when it came out than it would have done if it was just like plunked in.
Because if you want to have a good laugh, read the contemporary reviews on Amazon.
Oh, they
from like when the album.
What's happening with this?
Yeah, from when the album came out, because everyone's like, "This is shit. What have Radiohead done?" And then you read a couple more, kind of like a few months later, where it's kind of going, "Okay." After a few listens, I'm kind of liking it a bit better, and then now it's again regarded as being not only one of the best albums of the 2000s, but just again one of the best albums in general, and it's hard to disagree. And for me, it's just one of the best album closers ever. It's a motion picture soundtrack with I almost describe it as being like a Disney-esque strings and choir section, which again, for the longest time, you almost can see it as basically being a song about someone committing suicide. It talks about taking sleeping pills and drinking wine, and that's the classic way that someone could theoretically commit suicide. But in a way, these days, I almost see it about someone surviving that.
Yeah.
Because again, with the way Tom's vocals, raise up, it's almost like the character's ascending. He's died and ascended to heaven, but in a way, I almost see it these days as a bit more like I think about the character kind of carrying on.
Yeah.
I'll see you in the next life could be about I'll see you in heaven, or I could see you when I'm more emotionally stable in my new life.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it ends it on just a gorgeous note. So again, if you're not listening to it, like what are you doing here? Like you need to go away and listen to this album because it's just brilliant. You've heard it a million times before. It's perfect. Everyone agrees basically. So if you're not listening to it, what are you doing here? Go listen to it. You can listen to it on any service. Just do it right now.
Listen to Kid B.
Ooh, yeah.
The album Amnesiac, 2001, I believe, 1 year afterwards.
Yes. So Amnesiac. So during this time, despite being obviously quite a difficult album, well not difficult, as we kind of discussed, but like emotionally difficult album. It was a real creative peak for them, where we recorded a bunch of tracks which didn't make it onto Kid A. Which forms the very interesting Amnesiac, which came out pretty much a year later. Amnesiac is a puzzle box of an album. It definitely feels like offcuts, but it definitely feels complete as an album as itself. I've actually really grown to really, really like Amnesiac. I love the atmosphere. I love the mood of it.
Yeah.
Several of the songs are absolute Radiohead classics.
Pyramid Song, probably the best example.
Yeah.
Jumped in the river, what did I see?
the second spinning plates is incredible.
Yeah. When I saw them live, Tom performed that on the piano.
Oh man!
Trying to play the backwards music, like transposing it onto the piano, which is amazing. Love the album opening, packed like sardines in a crushed tin box.
Yeah.
That refrain of "I'm a reasonable man, get off my case." That's great. "I Might Be Wrong" is great. "You and Whose Army" is definitely more atmospheric. "Knives Out" with its almost like jazz-esque drumming. And "Life in a Glass House," which ends the song with like this old-timey jazz kind of like a band who we hired just to do this song. Ends the album on a really disconcerting note. In a way, it's a more strange and difficult album than Kid A. Well, you know, Kid A's kind of got like a bit more of a narrative art to it, but with Amnesiac, it's
all jagged edges.
It's all jagged edges. It's scattershot. But it's an album which I think really, really rewards repeated listens, and I've actually grown really fond of it. It's really, really good. I like it a lot. So yeah, kind of a perfect compliment, to be honest. And I think most people accept it for what it is now.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time people kind of like, it's offshoots, whatever.
Well, it was called Kid B for ages as a derogatory joke.
Yeah, but now I think people have accepted it as its kind of own wonderful, strange little album. So yeah, if you're not listening to it, then it's another one I'd really recommend. But you know, it's not one of our 3 essential albums.
And speaking of ones where the critical reception has not caught up to it, the next one, "Hail to the Thief."
"Hail to the Thief," and one that I still really struggle with, to be honest.
I think it's probably the worst apart from Pablo Honey.
Yeah, I mean, like
classic songs on here though. There's incredible.
There's amazing, and again, when they performed it live, that was one of the absolute highlights. When we recorded that song, apparently Tom York cried and was like, "That's the most beautiful song we've ever done."
Just 'cause you feel it doesn't mean it's
And yeah, it's filled with great moments, but I do agree with the criticism that it is overstuffed. Even the band themselves say it's overstuffed. I think if you chopped it down to kind of like, you know, make it fall, because part of me understands as well that you can't necessarily, they didn't necessarily want to like continue in the Kid A Amnesiac direction. So I get the principle of combining the more rock stuff with the more experimental stuff. I just think Hail to the Thief is the bridge.
Yeah.
To like what we do next. So it's
the problem is by putting both of them on this album without integrating them at all, it just feels like a mess.
Yeah,
I way that you mean there shouldn't be an album where it's got a song like "Sail to the Moon," great song, but also a punch up at a wedding. Like that sounds like some kind of like 90s Britpop song, "Punch Up at a Wedding," and "Sail to the Moon" sounds like one of the sort of morose ones they do later. And the whole album sounds like it's just like they're trying to do one song from each era rather than making an integrated album.
Rather than doing it as one, yeah. I mean, like I said, there are some killer songs in here. I think 2 + 2 = 5 is a great opening.
Yeah.
Mixomatosis is brilliant as well, with like its really driving beat. You know, there's great moments on it, great songs on it, but yeah, as you
say, Where I End and You Begin is great as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's just filled with like Wolf at the Door is really good as well. With a great ending. Like it's got loads of great stuff on it, but I think if you'd kind of like chopped it down a little bit, I think you'd have probably still not like an all-time classic one, but one which does serve as a nice bridge to the next album. So that was released in 2003, and several years pass, stuff happens, music industry moves on. A more mature Radiohead, a slightly more settled, kind of settling down Radiohead. Tom York looks healthy now. return in one of the most probably the most radical releases for an album from a major band probably ever, to be honest. In Rainbows. So you've heard this story before probably a million times, or we'll sum it up here for people that don't know. In Rainbows was released in 2007, and Radiohead launched a highly unconventional way of purchasing the album. You could basically pay what you want for the album. So if you want to pay a penny, you could do. If you want to pay a bit more, then you did. Interestingly, the producers said that most people end up paying on average about a £5.
Okay, yeah.
Which does kind of show the
people value
£5 if you don't know what a fiver is, £5 most people end up paying like a £5 for it. Which kind of shows the amount of respect people do generally have for Radiohead. They don't want to say, oh, whatever, I'll pay a penny. But then quite quickly people forgot about the unconventional release of the album and just thought about the music. Because this is definitely one of Radiohead's most accessible albums, one of their warmest albums, and I've heard it's a little bit middle classy, but I've heard it akin to like your favourite bottle of red wine. It just it matures beautifully and it just gets better with age.
Yeah.
I do not understand what it is. I don't know. For the holes, check for holes. Blink your eyes, won't forget.
Yeah.
Because this album is just no matter what you. Because with some Radiohead, as much as I love Kid A and OK Computer, I think you've got to be in a certain mood to listen to those albums. While in Rainbows, you can kind of stick on. It's my stick-on album, if you know what I mean.
It's definitely the most friendly one to actually listen to.
And it's our third essential album from the band. It's definitely one that, no matter what your mood, you can stick it on, and it's great. It's a more settled Radiohead lyrically, at least at the moment anyway. Most Tom York's in a good place. So let's get chatting about In Rainbows, because this is it's a classic album, start to finish, just beautifully done.
Well, it feels like, as you say, happier people sort of writing it, but also they deal with things which are... I think the thing that makes this so amazing is that they've stripped down a lot of the sort of stuff they would do. It's not like it's so simple, the things that make it effective. Yeah. So you have Videotape, the last song, incredible song about dying. But it's I will leave it on videotape. So it's about leaving things behind. Just a simple piano, going through it. That's all that you need for it.
When I'm at the pearly gates, this will be on my videotape, my videotape.
All I need, that builds and builds and builds, then an explosion of sound.
Yeah.
Amazing, not an unconventional tactic at all. And a lot of it's based on these sort of smooth, sort of easy to listen to rhythm sections with sort of this deep kind of mature lyrical style over the top, detailing things that sort of real people sort of go through. And
for me, the album highlight is Nude, which is just I love that song so much. Whether it's the simple opening, and then Tom's haunting falsetto. Once again, referencing when I saw them live. I saw them. I might as well go out of the way. I saw them on the Moonshaped Pool kind of mini tour that they did, where they did 3 nights at a Roundhouse in London, which is a small 3,000 person venue, and I was lucky enough to be able to get tickets to go. And it's probably still the best gig I've ever been to, because seeing a band that big, with Tom York basically being as far away as probably that pillar in the background, was electric. And when he starts singing this song, hearing 3,000 people trying to reach Tom's high voice was something else. Like, it's a song that has definitely brought me to tears before. Like, it's so beautiful. It's my favorite song off the album, and it's one that's been like banded around quite a lot.
Yeah.
So it was nice to have the song actually finally on an album here and presented.
Weird Fishes, I think it's amazing.
Weird Fishes is great, yeah. With its really interesting rhythm section again, strange time signature changes. It's oh god, yeah. But as I said, this is, as I said, my just, I want to listen to some music. I'll stick on In Rainbows, I guess. And that's the nice thing where I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about the unconventional way that the album was released. No one really talks about that much anymore. People just talk about this as almost like just like a classic. It's just a classic album.
Yeah.
I think probably like maybe like there's slightly less thematic stuff to talk about within Rainbows compared to like the other two we've put more of an emphasis on. But you know, you find a more mature Radiohead more confident abilities, as you say, to do slightly more simple songs like this.
Well, it sort of sounds like sort of people who've hit like late 30s, early 40s, sort of like looking back, relatively amount of peaceful in their life and amount of success, and like taking stock kind of thing. And it feels like really confident people making really, it's still emotionally resonant, but like the feelings and moods are a lot simpler. There isn't a grand thematic thing about living in the internet age, or like Hail to the Thief is supposed to be about living in through like that's supposed to be a State of the Union, like with the Iraq War and obviously like increased dislocation people feel with like politics and stuff, but that doesn't come across because it's such a mess. This is just because it is simple and about sort of human things, and it feels sort of like great album, incredible, love it.
It's it's for a lot when people talk about the favorite Radiohead albums. I can completely get someone saying that's my favourite one because
it is my favourite.
It's your favourite one, isn't it? Yeah. And I think part of it is because like
the warmth.
It's the warmth of it. Yeah, that's every time I come back to it. That's what I always connect with the most is the warmth of the album, the way it feels. I said it's but instrumental wise, it's so mature. Lyrically, it's mature. I watched like a whole video once about the weird time signature change of not change, but the weird time signature of videotape. Because apparently it's a song that Tom York actually has trouble playing on the piano. Yeah. Because it requires missing a beat and doing a beat on a beat that you shouldn't do. I don't get musicianship, and I find people who can play music incredible, but it basically requires play videotape correctly. It requires you to like miss a beat and play on the beat that you shouldn't play, which for a musician is like, you need to hit that beat. But for Radiohead to confidently do that it says something else, and I think it gives the song that really disconcerting feel. So yeah, again, if you're not listening to it, like what are you doing here? Again, just go off and go listen to it because it's a classic bit of just a classic bit of music. Yeah. It's just great. Okay, so after that, Radiohead kind of gets themselves
4 years off.
4 years on.
Tom York releases his solo album, The Eraser.
Yes.
Johnny Greenwood makes the soundtrack for There'll Be Blood and The Mask. Oh no, that wouldn't have been at this point. But yeah, they've gone off and they've done some other stuff. They're
basically starting to get a bit more diversifying. They're going off and doing their own things and kind of making their own names. As we've we'll probably discuss a bit more. Johnny Greenwood goes off and he becomes like a composer, doing incredible music for Paul Thomas Anderson's films. I managed to get the soundtrack to Phantom Thread is just one of the best contemporary soundtracks I've ever heard. Like, it's gorgeous. Hearing Johnny Greenwood have full control over an orchestra has been something I've been dying to hear for ages. You hear hints of it like on the albums, but to have him finally go full hog is just like. Oh.
Do you know they played Phantom Thread in London with him live doing an orchestra? So yeah, you could see him in the background doing the whole.
And again, when I saw them live, he was the one. Tom York was incredible. You couldn't take your eyes off him. But when I did take my eyes off of him, the stuff Johnny Greenwood was kind of like the mad scientist in the background. Kind of like I don't even know what he was doing. Like, he was just manipulating stuff and like turning cogs and running around like a madman doing crazy things. And there were some moments where he wasn't doing anything because he wasn't, he didn't need to be part of that song. And he was just sat there just watching the other musicians like just watching them, you can just tell that he loves what he does. You know, like I always think of oh god, like Dream Theater.
Oh yeah.
I can't believe I'm bringing up these guys in like Radiohead, but like they do quite long songs and quite long instrumentals. So when the singer's not needed, he just walks off stage and comes back when he's needed. But Johnny Greenwood doesn't do that. He sits there and just watches the musicians. Because he clearly just loves music and loves being part of this band. But anyway, that's beside the point. So they come back a few years later with a slightly unconventional release. People were surprised by this one. It kind of was announced when it came out like a week later. And it's called The King of Limbs.
There's not much to this, is there? They don't even play songs on it. They just twiddle around for half an hour.
This is one which still hasn't really had its great awakening, but I've listened to it quite a lot recently. And I've come round to having the same warmth as I get from In Rainbows, to be honest. The second half of the album, I stand by, is some of the most beautiful stuff Radiohead's ever done.
Yeah.
I've actually really come around to liking this album. Lotus Flower is
amazing.
It's amazing. I think it's one of their best singles. Beautiful song with its repeating loops and Tom's vocals. And then following that, you've got Codex, which is a gorgeous song, Give Up the Ghost, which is really effective, and Separator, which ends the album, was really kind of just a lovely note. I've really come round to really, really liking it, which is an album which, for the longest time was kind of regarded as being, like a slightly limp follow-up to In Rainbows, which I suppose it is in a way, but it's almost taken me a long time, almost 10 years, to come round to saying I actually really, really like The King of Limbs. I love the sound of it. I love the atmosphere of it. The creepy album cover as well is one of my favourite Radiohead album covers.
There's an amazing single that they released around this time called Daily Mail / The Staircase.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. But we did loads of after this one as well. We did a few others like that as well, including their unreleased song for Spectre. Which is really good as well. So King of Limbs, while it's not the most inventive one, I think it's one that does show their kind of newfound sense of maturity as musicians and as songwriters, even if it's not exactly the most ground-shattering album in the world. But I think it's kind of okay being that way.
Yeah,
I think King of Limbs is fine the way it is. What do you think of it? Or
I like a lot of it, but yeah, it doesn't ever come across to me as like really amazing one. It reminded me because it's all atmospherics basically, and it's like that's better than it being all rock. But like I don't think it has the texture of like a lot of the better ones. But for what it is, it sounds pretty great. Like
yeah.
I mean, it's one of them where like I like what they've done with it, and I appreciate the idea of them just making a sort of 40-minute sustained experience. Like there's very little actual like proper. It's all like
I think it depends. I think it depends on how into you get into the loops.
Yeah.
And the repeated beats, which those. I kind of disagree in a way because like it does reveal its textures. It just takes a long time to get there. Like I've probably listened to this album for about 10 or 15 times now.
And I've probably just not listened to it enough yet. Yeah. But yeah, Lotus Flower is incredible.
Lotus Flower is incredible. If you get Lotus Flower, then you can get the rest of the album. And I'll say that second half, which is really more pastoral, I love it. I think it's really great. The first half's really good as well. Like the opening track, which is called Bloom, is great. Morning Mr. Magpie is great. Little by Little is great. Feral's great. It's all really good. It's just it's just in and amongst giants basically is the only problem. So we'll leave it there for now. But anyway, so then several more years pass. Things happen. The band again goes off, starts doing their own separate things.
More Tom York solo stuff. Atoms for Peace is super band with Flea.
Phil Selway's solo albums are meant to be really good as well. I've just not heard them yet.
Yeah. More soundtracks by Philip. Sorry, not Philip.
Johnny Greenwood.
Johnny Greenwood. Yeah.
I don't know what Ed O'Brien gets up to. He's the other one who I couldn't think of. But anyway, they come back in 2016 with the incredible
I think it was 2017 though.
No, it's 2016.
Ah, okay.
I can almost guarantee. I tell you right now, it's 2016. Because you probably know this, but for like listeners out there, like I couldn't really like listen to Moonshaped Pool for like the longest time because this is why I know it was 2016 because that was the year my parents split up.
Ah, yeah.
So it was quite an emotionally turbulent time for me personally. And this album almost kind of became the soundtrack for that period because it came out like a week after. So after I kind of got past it, I couldn't really listen to it because I kind of associated that time of my life with the album. But now I'm in a much better place. I gave it another listen. And now I'm like, it's one of Radiohead's best albums.
I'd say they're second best. I think it's really incredible, yeah.
I'd go like, I don't know about best, but I'll probably rank it as my fourth favourite. After OK Computer, Kid A, In Rainbows, and then Moonshaped Pool. Because, oh my god, this album's great.
Daydreaming, incredible.
God, Daydreaming with its amazing music video directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, funnily enough. Burn the Witch with its incredible... It's the orchestra that makes this album. And it does it in really interesting, like unexpected ways. I love the drive of Burn the Witch, and that contrasted with the lush orchestra with the electric drumming and the beats, and it's an incredible piece. But lyrically, again, there's probably no like overriding theme, but each song is almost like a complete thing in itself. Like there's a song which sings about like climate change and stuff. And it definitely...
it's vaguely sort of doomy and stuff, like
vaguely,
the whole album, yeah.
But only very vaguely. I'd say each song does kind of deal with, like different, very strong different themes. Each song feels like a strong individual theme.
I think you can also say it sounds like the sort of work of a man who's sort of just gone through a divorce, which Tom York had.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got like Full Stop, where the lyrics go, "Can you take me back?" And that's cool.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there's like elements of it, like it's quite eclectic.
Yeah.
Because even like Tom York himself says like it's not really that inspired by like his divorce, but something like Daydreaming, you can definitely feel that.
And True Love Waits as well.
The inclusion of True Love Waits is the key thing, because like basically like most of these songs were songs that they kind of like performed live for years and years and years, but we've never really like found a place on the albums. Well, this is the album. Yeah, it's almost like, which is why it's kind of got that eclectic feel where there's definitely stuff you can look into. Like there's like Tom York's divorce, which had a huge divorce, and her eventual death as well.
Yeah.
But there's definitely elements of that, but lyrically and thematically it's quite wide ranging. So some of it is about like falling out of love, but it's also about the environment. It's that kind of like a sense of dislocation again, and there's all sorts to it. And this is the album which I think Hell to the Feet should have been.
Yeah,
that perfect combination of that kind of more slightly more, not even rock, but kind of like post-rock, art rock kind of thing, mixed with the electronic experimentation. I feel like this is the album which Hail to the Thief should have been.
Well, I think crucially in all, unlike Hail to the Thief, it does move their sound forward with incorporating the orchestra.
Which basically becomes Johnny Greenwood's instrument on this album. That's like what he does.
Yeah.
But they make it like it's on the song. I can't remember. I know all the songs, but I struggle remembering the names. The one where he sings about the panic attack he has at the train station.
Oh, that's Glass Eyes.
Glass Eyes. Yeah. Oh my god.
Hey, it's me. I just got off the train. A frightening place. The faces are concrete gray, and I'm wondering, should I turn around, buy another ticket? The panic is coming on strong, so call me inside.
Hey, that's me. I stepped out the train, and then like when the strings kick in. But yeah, it's the inclusion of True Love Waits, which is the real kicker. Like kind of what used to be a bit of an anthem song is now stripped back to being much more depressing
and stark.
In fact, scientists, this is a real thing. Scientists were able to determine by scanning people's brains while listening to Radiohead songs which is the most depressing Radiohead song, and this is the one.
I find it it's very moving. I wouldn't call it the most depressing one. It's got the plaintive plea, I think.
I find it depressing.
Don't
only because that's the song I think of most when I think of like that period in my life, where like I think it's really depressing personally. I think it's a really sad song. It still gets me a bit, to be honest.
See, I find the album to be quite.
The rest of it, I don't. That's the only one. The only one where it gets a little bit too much for me is True Love Waits. The rest of it, I find dead listenable.
Yeah. See, I find the album overall to be. It's like almost uplifting in a way. Like you've got like songs like Daydreaming. They sound like they're written by like a sort of an elder statesman who's sort of got a lot of perspective. Like daydreamers, dreamers, they never learn, and all this stuff. Like you could interpret that in like it feels quite wistful in a way, kind of thing. And you've got like the numbers as well. Is quite not uplift. They deal with dark subject matter, obviously, but I think they almost have an uplifting thing of carrying on kind of thing.
I wouldn't necessarily call it uplifting, but I'd almost call it like he's kind of
melancholic.
He's more melancholic. He's more like separate to it now. He's worked past whatever he's gone through, but it almost feels like separate to it now. The mood's really weird. I can't quite work it out because I agree with you to a degree that it is almost uplifting in a way, but in a way it's not. Like it's a weird like middle ground where the tone's never quite clear, which is what I really like about it, because you never quite know how to feel about the songs. Really plaintive and especially Glass Eye, which the way it perfectly describes like a panic attack and stuff, and musically. An album that continues to reel its layers is definitely, I think, one of Radiohead's best. And again, we kind of talked about with Kanye, where if he was going to be the last one, then whatever, fair enough.
A lot of people think this will be the last.
Think it's,
I don't think it will. I don't think one in them. Yeah,
they got one. I actually probably at least one more. Probably no, they've got several more albums in them. But they've kind of gone off and they're doing their own separate things and probably quite satisfied in the music that they're doing. Tom York's done several solo albums. Not several, sorry. He's done a couple more solo albums. The one where Tomorrow's Modern Boxers had an interesting release where he did it through BitTorrent. And BitTorrent is like the enemy of the musician because he allowed so much free music to be distributed. But he was like, fuck it now. Pay a couple quid, you can download BitTorrent, finally leave it there. And his new one just came out recently, Anima. Which I think is really, I liked it. I've only listened to it once, but it was good. It was quite good. So I say Moonshaped Pool. If it was going to be the last one, then fine. But I'd want that last Radiohead album. We've got to have it in them. So that's kind of where they are at the moment. Again, if you're not listening to these albums, then again, what you're doing, like you need to have them in your life.
As a thesis statement, great band who I think are unfairly labelled as being miserablest. I think there is definitely
defo.
Not just I think there's like a call to sort of feel things and to. I don't think it's simply like like music where it's just about reveling in misery. I think there is definitely like an element of this is what's wrong with it. You can fix this kind of thing.
I think the person who said it best about kind of like sad music was Stephen Wilson. At the concert we both saw, and he kind of said like people always could have said yours are really sad songs, really depressing songs, and Stephen Wilson kind of said, well, yeah, but in a way there's something quite beautiful about it. It can bring people together. That someone feels the same way I do, and we're all taking solace in this together, which I think kind of Radiohead is a little bit like that. Where but I do think if you ostensibly like listen to the albums, they're definitely like more depressing and sad albums than like your Oasis's. Sure. But there is something quite uplifting in a way about that people do feel a similar way to you, and we're communicating, and we're all coming together to try and work through it. Which is kind of beautiful in a way, and I think that's one of the things they do best. I say when I saw them live, it was just like, because it's just weird because it kind of like bookends that period of my life where like when Moonshaped Pool came out, I was in a really dark place, and then seeing them live was almost a way of working through it and getting past it. And like I was able to kind of get past it then, and I was able to carry on. And since then I've kind of make leaps and bounds, but I almost kind of see the release of Moonshaped Pool with seeing them in London as almost like kind of bookends to that period where I was able to carry on, and music helped me do that, which is the incredible thing about the band you love, music you love. It's it can be there for you. So
that's a nice note to end on. Nice personal little thing.
So basically why partly I go for the more hopeful ending to Kid A these days.
Yeah.
Because, I said there's something beautiful about sad music bringing people together. So, yeah, Very Nice on Your Life, check them out because, we both can't recommend enough basically, and I can never stop talking about them. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, should we discuss what we're going to do next time? So, we've done 4 different musicians so far, all men, so I feel let's get away from that. The music of Joni Mitchell.
Oh, okay. I've only ever heard Blue.
Blue will be one of them.
That's the only one I've ever heard.
That's the sort of canonical classic. It's like 30, I think, on Rolling Stone's top albums ever, and it's it is a great album. But she goes in different directions. She gets jazzier as she goes on. So we'll go for Blue, the sort of consensus critical choice. Commercial highlight, which was Core and Spark. That's an amazing album. And Hejira, which I've never actually said, but I've seen written down several times. Hejira? Is it King Ghidorah?
Gojira?
That's a great album as well, but that's a very personal one that she did that only really fans love. So that'll be an interesting 3. And any ones you want to listen to enhance it, feel free. She's usually, there are usually like 1 LP ones, so they're only going to be like 40 minutes. But those are the 3 we'll go for. And Joni Mitchell, very, very soon, 2 weeks from now.